All right, everybody, welcome to the Sports Warriors right here on Facebook Live, on YouTube. If you're on our YouTube channel, I'm Tristan Ducross. Along my side, it's always my partner in crime, the one and only
Sean Ducross. Tristan, everybody's been waiting all week to find out what exactly are the brothers going to talk about first. It's been one of those things. Everybody's been on the edge of their seat, going, what's going to happen? What's next? Well, Tristan, you wouldn't have the DeCross brothers if there wasn't something that hit the fan that we need to give you the realest opinions and the realest talk about, right?
Oh, absolutely. And what's better than New Beginnings itself when you're talking about Jeff Horn versus Manny Pacquiao live on ESPN? You can't get much better than this. Because the way that I see it is Jeff Horn versus Manny Pacquiao. Everybody keep talking about it. Keep talking about it. Good, bad, or indifferent. We've always said that, right? Regardless of whose opinions or what, it is really an interesting feat in itself when you're looking at Pacquiao actually losing. Now, did he get robbed? You break down the scorecards, it kind of looks like that he got robbed. Everybody's talking about the controversy and how fixed it is. But really, the only issue that I really had about the scorecards was simply the 117 to 111 scorecard. That's really the only controversy that I saw that made me scratch my head.
That's when you scratched your head? You scratched your head as soon as it was announced that it was a unanimous decision. You could probably save grace and made sure that it was a split decision if you were going to go that route. Because then maybe you could think, you know what? Maybe I could have saw it 115, 113 for Horn and 115 to 113 for Pacquiao. But as soon as you uttered the words unanimous decision and then you threw in the 117, you got a whole nother set of can of worms. And that's exactly what transpired. The thing, though, is that you got to give props for this. You said it after that. Oh, it's home field advantage. It was home field advantage in the sense that it was in Australia. But when you look at it, it was 2 U.S. judges and an Argentine judge in Australia that screwed it all up for everybody else. But one thing is that what boxing did is that they created a new person, a new face in this division by causing controversy. Because you didn't know who Jeff Horn was. You know who Jeff Horn is now.
And what did I tell you, Sean? What did I tell you originally about this coming into ESPN? What did I tell you about Jeff Horn? Did I not tell everybody on last week's show that Jeff Horn coming into this had to try to do something to make him irrelevant in this fight? Did I not say that? Because nobody knew who Jeff Horn was. And here he is facing Manny Pacquiao on the first ever top-ranked ESPN boxing. And we're going to get to top rank at ESPN here shortly. But, look, I hate the whole analytics side of this. Because analytics has played a big part in professional sports. Be it in baseball, be it in boxing. Analytics plays a huge factor into it. A lot of people have picked apart the CompuBox stats. Because in reality, how many punches were actually land? How effective were they? Don't get me wrong. Looking at the body of work, you looked at it, Manny Pacquiao landed the cleaner shots. I get it, right? But if you look at it from an outsider's perspective and you don't put the bias into the fact that this is Manny Pacquiao, if you actually look for the fight for what it was, right? It was an entertaining fight, was it not?
Yeah.
Was Jeff Horn not aggressive through the whole entire fight? Most of the fight he was. Most of his work that were effective was when he pushed Manny Pacquiao up against the ropes, was it not?
Yeah, and then
we were watching that. We're like, dude, if you stay on the inside and you stay with him pushing up against the ropes, 90% of your punches, you were landing within the clinch. So
If he kept the fight up against the ropes, he was going to knock out Pac-Man regardless. Let's just be real about that. If he kept him up against that ropes, it was done. He was DOA on the ropes. Then Manny Pacquiao started to take a step back and started doing what Pac-Man does now. Patience. Waited out, weather the storm. The interesting thing about Jeff Horn in this situation was the lunging.
Okay, or the wideness of his punches coming in.
We have consistently talked about the judging with whoever wants to talk about the judging, and whether it's MMA or boxing, being guys that have been up close and personal to boxing fights
and sitting with judges.
Boxing isn't easy to judge by any stretch of the imagination. Because when I first went to my first boxing fight to cover, I remember scoring it based solely on the fact of, well, this guy's just throwing left, right. He's landing this and that. And then the more and more I watched it, it's like, wait a second. That punch doesn't get through. That punch doesn't get through. You start then judging on defense and not offense. If you can't penetrate the guard, then why is it that you're being rewarded points? And this was that prime example. As you talk about the CompuStrike strike score, whatever it may be, about, oh, he threw 245 punches and he landed only 17%. But yet he won the fight. That's where the thing is skewed. Because if the judges were seeing the volume in which Horn was throwing at, then yes, he won. Then yes, that's the rookie mistake of boxing judging, is because of the fact you cannot score boxing on volume. You score boxing in what actually gets through and penetrates the guard of the boxer. If you do not get through that, you do not score points. You do not win the fight.
See, and this is where I have an issue with the CompuBox scorecard, because again, you're telling me that Jeff Horn only landed 17% of his punches, correct?
Yeah.
And then you look at Manny Pacquiao. How the heck does he land over almost 200 shots clean through? There is no way that Manny Pacquiao landed 100 and something clean shots over and over to Jeff Horn. Even though Jeff Horn's face would tell you a different story. But, I mean, those numbers are skewed, Sean. Those numbers are 100% skewed.
I completely agree.
And I would say in favor of Manny Pacquiao. And there's been rumors for years about CompuBox having a favoritism towards Manny Pacquiao. Consistently, I mean, all CompuBox stats are, Sean, is somebody sitting at a computer and pushing buttons for every time they think something landed.
Oh, button smasher.
Yes. So tell me how that isn't accurate. And everybody in the social media world think that they can score this. I'm sorry. Like, you could be a fan of Manny Pacquiao. You could say that he won the score, won the fight based off of 115 to 112 or whatever you wanted to score it. Everybody has the right to score the way that they score. But the reality is Jeff Horn won. Throw the Compu stats out the window. Go back and watch that fight again for what it was. And I can guarantee you will see that Jeff Horn won that fight. Because I even told you, I was like,
no, you're as ludicrous as the three judges were to say Jeff Horn won that fight. Jeff Horn did not win that fight. There's nothing you can ever say to try to distinguish that, because the bottom line is you got to hit the fighter. You cannot throw 200 and some odd punches and nothing get through that. I could tell that. Not just because the guy was on the other side punching buttons and saying, hit.
145?
He did not get through and penetrate the guard of Manny Pacquiao.
No, but I also don't think that Manny Pacquiao penetrated the guard by 145 punches.
Oh, that he probably didn't. But he beat up Jeff Horn more than Jeff Horn beat up him. Let's just be real on that one. You want to talk about Stephen A. Smith going off?
Dude, Stephen A. Smith says that the judging is so corrupted
it is
in boxing, and that you'll never see a judge skew it the way that he has done. Dude, we've seen fights in the UFC that you're left scratching your head. See Michael Bisping's fights. See judges favor certain people.
As long as you are in this field of combat sports,
I agree with Nathan.
As long as you're in this field of combat sports, no matter what you do,
yes,
there will always be some way of some type of shenanigans of fixed events, whether it's okay. Let's just be real for a second. That's going to be my tagline here. Okay? No matter what sport you are in, right. I'll make this perfectly clear. One time out. It doesn't matter if it's in boxing. It doesn't matter if it's in MMA. It doesn't matter if it's in Muay Thai. It doesn't matter if it's in baseball. It doesn't matter if it's in hockey. It doesn't matter if it's in NBA. The bottom line is all sports are fixed.
In some way, shape or form.
Because as long as there is betting at the next level, there will always be fixed opportunities.
Absolutely.
There will always be an opportunity to shave off points. There will always be an opportunity to showcase somebody else. And that's what this was. A showcase to put Jeff Horn on the map because of his fighting style. He was 17-0 coming into this fight. He fought like a bruiser. That's what makes unique fights. That's where we are at in boxing. So when you want to
stylistically, what makes it good for a fight? Ratings will tell you exactly what they thought about this fight. They thought it was the most exciting fight since 1995. They thought it was the most exciting fight since 2006. Why? 4.4 million viewers say so.
For a guy you didn't know.
No.
3.1 million viewers watched it live and streamed it.
Absolutely.
3.1 million for a guy you didn't know. But now you know.
And don't tell me it was because Manny Pacquiao was on that, because his buy rates on pay-per-view have gone straight down the toilet for the last couple of years. So don't tell me
but
that.
But yeah, his pay went up. He awarded...
On free TV, of course.
He got 10 mil.
Yeah. But wouldn't you on free TV, you're like, dude, I'm going to be the first fight ever on ESPN Top Rank? Then yeah.
But I mean, boxing has always been shady in the sense, Tristan, of the underlining dealings of events.
Dude,
we've
had people put plaster in their wraps. We've had
Antonio Margarito plaster in his gloves against Sugar Shane Mosley in 2009. And prior to that, left people wondering, did he use plaster in his hands in his knockout win against Miguel Cotto? Then on top of that, you want to dig even deeper into shenanigans of boxing and talk about how corrupt the world is. Let's go all the way back. IBF president Robert Lee was knowingly took bribes and sold his rankings back in the day just to make $1, to make sure his fighters were at the top. It was even expanded over 13 years that consisted of 23 boxers, 7 promoters involved. One of the big name promoters at that time that openly admitted wrongdoing was Bob Arum.
And who was behind this fight?
He admitted to paying $100,000 in '95 just for Foreman not to face his mandatory opponent. Yeah, okay. Boxing's not fake. Boxing's not rigged. Boxing is more corrupt than anything else. There's more underlying dealings in boxing than ever. And I have to assume that why there's so much underlying dealings in boxing is because of the fact that you have so many sanctioning bodies
absolutely.
In boxing that you can hide stuff underneath the table. It's like watching The Godfather unravel.
Sean, you're telling me that at some point that Don King never had his own side dealings?
Don King was part of boxing being fixed in one of the 13,000 stories of being rigged.
Absolutely.
That was just the tipping of the iceberg. So it's always been there, and this was just one of those that Yes, you wanted to get worked up. Yes, you wanted to say, oh, this is a shame. But watching Teddy Atlas go ape about the fight being fixed, or watching Timothy Bradley go nuts for it, and watching Stephen A. Smith saying this is a crook sport. It is. It's a given. It doesn't matter. When are you going to stop pulling the wool over your eyes and be open to what's actually in front of you? What happens if I would have went up to Stephen A. Smith and said, yo, boxing is rigged. Basketball is rigged. Basketball is fixed. Oh my God, he would have a conniption fit. So why don't you just turn the tables and be open-minded?
I really want to say something, and I'm probably going to get...
No, you're not.
Get dug in a hole for it. But the reality of the situation, Sean, is that it has come to the forefront. And I have been one of the people that has continued to put it out there. You say pull the wool over people's eyes. I've always said that you
need to lift up the veil.
Yes, let's lift up the veil and let's put everything out there. Dude, we got news stations that put on news and stuff like that just to be a spin doctor and pull the wool over people's eyes. That's the way that they do it. We, for one, do not condone any of that stuff. So we will actually say what we say, believe what we say, and let's actually start giving people the reality that, dude, sports is what it is. You said it best. Betting is in the sports. It is, period. There's been talks for the last couple of years about allowing gambling to come into sports. Most notably, Vegas. MMA, T-Mobile Arena. There's been negotiations about people being able to gamble and stuff like that in the
venue
in the NHL with the Golden Knights now. There has been talks about lifting that.
The Oakland Raiders.
So don't tell me that people are not talking about it. Like, people are just trying to find that next nugget to avoid. You can't avoid this. Boxing is what it is. You accept it. It's a dying breed. It's a dying art because too many sanction bodies, too many hands in the cookie jar. That's what it is. ESPN Top Rank, now part of it. Let's put those two in. Because I can guarantee you, ESPN, come on. $1 million promotion. Want to make money? Top Rank, first one. Let's add that to the crumble. Let's see that if you actually dig deeper, dude, inside trading everywhere. Whether you get caught or not, that's a different thing.
It is. It really is. So it was very amusing to me watching everybody go ape when it's just like,
right?
It shouldn't surprise you.
No. I'm laughing at all these comments.
I was told that with all my twists and turns that I talk to people outside of our show on a daily basis, that I should write a blog about all my conspiracy theories because it'd be the most interesting read. But unfortunately, this guy can't write worth a lick.
You should get a ghostwriter.
But they're like, dude, with all your conspiracy theories and twists, it'd make an interesting read because either A, you'd piss off people, or make people open up their eyes.
Sean, Russian mob in Pride, remember?
Russian mob in Pride. Mobs in boxing in general.
Mobs in hockey. It's been there. It's not going away.
In the NHL, you ran a story from Montreal a couple years ago.
With the Russian mob ties.
Yes, regarding gambling, playing cards. That dealt with Rick Tocchet.
Right.
Yo, guys, it's been there. It's been done. It's just so weird that everybody seems to forget that. It's like you're watching real life media in the news conferences, in the news world. You know 90% of everything you watch on the news is some fabricated lie to get you to talk about stories that may not be true, that may be lacking factual evidence for.
It's like those websites that are now everywhere that are clickbaits. Just saying.
So it's one of those things that is like, get a grip, realize life isn't cushy, realize that you need a little bit more in your life to understand that it isn't always what it seems. So getting worked up, getting mad over it,
ain't going to solve anything.
It isn't. Move on.
Just like what we are. You're listening to the Sports Warriors right here. We got the latest news with the realest talk, the realest opinions. I'm Tristan Ducross, along my side as always, my brother, Sean Ducross, and we don't hide from nobody. Sean, coming up, UFC 213 preview is what we got on tap coming up next. Our boy, Terrion Flash Ware, finally signs on the dotted line. We're going to talk about his debut coming up next. Stay tuned for more with the Sports Warriors, Sean and Tristan Ducross.
You're listening to Sean and Tristan Ducross, the Sports Warriors. Check us out on Facebook Live and YouTube on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or you can visit our website at www.ducrossbrothers.com.
All right, everybody, we are back. I'm Tristan Ducross. Along my side, as always, my brother, Sean Ducross. Real quick, Joe Novelzolo is in the chat room. I want to say is that, hey, we already talked about that. We already agreed that Pac-Man got robbed. We just giving you different aspects of what was going on in that world and in that fight card, because there's bigger picture here than just Pac-Man versus Horn, who got robbed, who didn't. But UFC 213 going down this weekend, July 8th. Terrion Flash Ware joins the UFC. Finally, after months and months of on Twitter, on Facebook, you name it, continually saying, dude, give me a fight. Like, you don't understand that this guy has put in work. An RFA veteran knocked out Jared Papazian, finally gets his due in the UFC. But the thing is, it's not against a schlub, as he's taking on a guy named Stanman, who is bigger, stronger, and has only one loss on his record. The only thing that you can honestly think about again for Terrion is that Tyrone is at 13-1 versus 17-5. Like, Terrion Ware is a guy that's on 4-fight win streak versus 6-fight win streak. Both guys, I'm expecting a unique fight in itself, because Ware's a stand-up guy through and through, and he's fighting a wrestler. Can he stop a takedown? People are going to have to see when that comes time. But this card has had quite a few losses at the top of the card when you're looking at it.
The only big notable one that left the card was Robbie Lawler versus Donald Cerrone was moved from this fight card to UFC 214.
Cody Garbrandt, TJ Dillashaw was set for this fight card. Back surgery pulled out Garbrandt. Alan Juban versus Brian Camozzi. Juban broke his foot. Robbie Lawler, Cowboy Cerrone, like you said, was moved. Cowboy got a blood infection. Like, you lost three good cards. They put Yoel Romero and Robert Whitaker for the interim middleweight crown on this card to just save face.
But yet it's headlined by Nunez and Shevchenko. And their second fight. When this one was basically 2 years ago, where Shevchenko was a glorified journeywoman who not many people remembered who she was, because she was fighting all around the world. She came over, she was a little green for everybody's liking, and got beat by Nunez. Now, since then, you've seen Shevchenko go on a tear and become one of the best premier strikers, as well as the fact that she can also win on the mat. So you're looking at a woman versus another woman who's just most notably known for her striking and her ability to stand up. So Shevchenko, if she wants to win this fight, get it down to the ground. Show her your new ability to get the fight to the ground.
But what does this say about Amanda Nunes if she stops Shevchenko? What does that say about her?
That she's the real deal?
You're looking at a girl that has absolutely ran roughshod through the division with 5 fights, 3 of them being TKOs, and 2 of them being subs. And you're talking about the destruction that she has laid in her way with her destroying Ronda Rousey, send her ultimately into retirement. And then you're also looking at the fact that she beat Miesha Tate. Both girls that were at the top of their game, done, out, into retirement. If she beats her, are you kidding me? Like, there is nobody that's going to be standing in the way of Nunes. Nobody. Like, she is the new version, a better version of Ronda Rousey. More of a complete fighter instead of a one-dimensional fighter. And here Amanda Nunes gets Shevchenko for the second time. And Shevchenko, the only claim to fame that she has, John, is that she was the one that took Nunes to the distance.
Yeah, and then you look now, Nunes has ran off back-to-back KOs over Rousey and Tate. So she's earned her keep. So it'll be interesting to see how this one goes ahead and revolves this time around. But then you've got the interim title. Yoel Romero versus Robert Whittaker.
Fake champ!
Fake champ, yes. And that was one of the things like, man, this fight makes no sense. But the more and more you
one of the guys on my Facebook hit me up and asked me, hey, what do you think about the Robert Whittaker versus Yoel Romero for the interim title? I was like, fake champ. And he's like, really? I was like, yeah, fake champ. These guys, they're going to win a fake title.
Fake title, but they're going to put on a show for the fight fans. It's going to be interesting to see that the styles are very contrasting.
Yes, they are.
Robert Whittaker is perhaps one of the top strikers in the UFC when he stands in front of you. Yoel Romero is just a freak. He's like a freight train coming at you 90 miles a minute. So you look at this one, which one are you going to get? Is Yoel Romero going to rush in so quickly he's going to get a hit with a counter left and get knocked out by Robert Whittaker?
Wait, can you believe that these two fighters have to fight for an interim middleweight title and they are combined 15-0 in their last 15 fights?
That's what I'm saying. They deserve to be here this opportunity, whether it's an interim title or not. They deserve this opportunity. Everything they've done, the fact that Yoel Romero's on an 8-fight winning streak that consists of him knocking out Machida, Weidman. You're looking at
the list of who's who, literally.
Whittaker knocking out Jacare Souza, who you and I both thought for the longest time
should have been
the number one guy.
Yeah.
And then goes right in and knocks out Jacare Souza. So,
but if you're Bisping, really, do you really want to face either one of these two guys?
If you're Bisping, stop doing movies and go fight.
Right?
You're not Conor McGregor.
But you're Yoel Romero, Robert Whittaker being added to his cards, it buys interest.
It does.
But like the one fight that I like that nobody's talking about, and I mean nobody, is Alistair Overeem versus Verdum. Because this will be the third fight that these two have fought.
Not in the UFC.
Pride, Strikeforce, now the first time in the UFC.
Yeah.
And does anybody realize that both these guys are 1-1?
This is the rubber match.
Yes. This will finally either...
Verdum beat him in Pride FC. Then Overeem beat him in Strikeforce. Now we're here in the UFC.
Yeah.
But this
is the fight that, to me, that all scores need to be settled. Because the heavyweight division is so up and down right now, is that ultimately one of these two guys, Sean, basically this is a title eliminator.
It is, because the winner of this one becomes, in my eyes, the number one seed to take on Stipe Miocic.
Yes. And people were like, well, what about Travis Hopper Brown? Well, first off, he just got engaged to Ronda Rousey. Second thing on top of that, he's on the prelims. So let's not talk about Travis Brown, because he's not even on the main card, let alone on the radar of the heavyweights.
But you want to talk about new beginnings, new era.
Oh. I think I know where you're going with this.
You got to look at the one that's kind of underneath the radar, and that's Anthony Pettis versus Jim Miller. These guys are going polar opposites.
Completely different direction.
Pettis is 1-4 in the last 5 fights. Jim Miller got knocked out by Dustin Poirier. So you look across everything that has gone on. These guys are going backwards faster than anything you've ever seen, because Anthony Pettis was once a title contender, and then seemingly he's now developed a monarch.
For how long?
Yeah, and then you look at the Anthony Pettis though and the style of his fights. It's as if he gets bored. Like he starts out the fight good, and then he just starts to fade. It's like, I'm not interested. Like, why am I even fighting? Why am I even here?
Sean, Anthony Pettis, 1-5 in his last 6 fights, okay? He hasn't done relatively anything. He missed weight at 145 for his second fight. He's coming back up in weight to take on Jim Miller. The only good thing about this is that I'm hoping that this is a fight for Anthony Pettis to reclaim what is left of himself. Because at 1-5, this is your career on the line. This is like the WWE putting somebody's career on the line, and the winner leaves the UFC type of deal. That's the way that I see this. This is simply to help Anthony Pettis and his career, because you're facing a guy that isn't afraid to stand in front of you, and he doesn't have to worry about a guy that's going to be a wrestler to take him down.
But Miller may want to get this fight to the mat.
Correct, may. But this is where you're praying that Anthony Pettis goes back to his old school ways and just believe in himself, go back to where he once was.
Show that he cares.
That he can go back to his kickboxing routes. Because that's where he was the most dominant, is when his kickboxing, his striking was on point. Now if you look Jim Miller, if he brings his kickboxing and stands up and bangs with Jim Miller. Last time a guy did that to Jim Miller, his name was Donald Cerrone. And see what happened with the leg kicks to Jim Miller. The only way Jim Miller gets past Anthony Pettis
is the fight has to go to the ground.
It has to go to the ground, or simply Jim Miller's going to have to bully Anthony Pettis.
Correct. He has to keep the fight close and get in the clinch and make sure that this fight either ends up against the cage or on the mat.
Yeah, because Anthony Pettis does not like anybody applying pressure in his face. That's where he mentally breaks down. So, Jim Miller, that's the only way that I see that this is happening by any stretch of the imagination, is Jim Miller has to apply pressure. Other than this, I think this is all 100% Anthony Pettis. This is a showcase fight for Anthony Pettis to kind of regain some kind of confidence back.
If Anthony Pettis loses and he goes to 1-5 in the last 6 fights, then this whole thing with Anthony Pettis may become interesting, because does the UFC cut him?
That's what I'm saying. Career is on the line in this fight. Nathan in the chat room simply brought up, and I could not agree more. He says, do you think that Pettis had a nice little run because the stars aligned perfectly for him and he wasn't actually that good? See?
Well, that's an interesting thing, Tristan, because you can kind of see that in what I just said. And the perception is that if you watch him in the last several fights, he just doesn't care. So you put him in a position to better for him to succeed. Yeah, the stars may have aligned, and we're seeing the real Showtime Pettis
come out,
that he's not really that, and that he's just a showman.
Yes, because we've all said is that you're a byproduct of your schedule. You're a byproduct of the fights that you face.
And the UFC started to get better. They started to get at the top when it came to Anthony Pettis.
And in the middleweight division got better. It's not weak. The middleweight division is not weak. That's why he felt like he had to drop down in weight, but knew that he was too big to go down. Same thing with Benson Henderson. Yeah, see him over in Bellator, where I think that he's just spar fighting.
Pretty much, considering that Benson Henderson, look, again, you watch these top guys that are good and then watch them transition to upping the fights. They don't always step up. And Benson Henderson was that byproduct when he went over, moved up in weight, and got blasted by Korshkov. So you look at it, there are certain things that I think the Benson Henderson and the Anthony Pettis' fight elevated their careers. put them on the map, and then made you go, are these guys really the star potential?
The only claim to fame to me about Benson Henderson is him running along the cage, kicking some dude upside the face, or him chewing on a toothpick. That's really the only claim to fame. I never thought that dude was good, except for the angel wings tattooed on his back. Now that was prime. That angel wings, good job, whoever tattooed that on his back. But that doesn't make him fly.
He thought it made him fly.
Right? But, man, I just think that there's so much more that UFC is trying to save the career of Anthony Pettis by putting him in there against Jim Miller.
But Anthony Pettis and Jim Miller, either one of them loses,
they're done.
They're done, and they're Bellator bound. Yep. Just saying.
Pack up your bags
and head to Bellator.
Get your Reebok stuff. Get your UFC stuff. Company boys. Pack up your stuff, dude. Go home.
But this is a good fight card. UFC 213 is a good fight card. It is very interesting stylistically. When you go ahead and you look at what's going on in this fight card, it has a lot of unique storylines. It has a lot of uniqueness to it. So let's see how it plays out.
Actually, Red Bull does not give you wings. See the lawsuit. Monster gives you the energy. But we are the Sports Warriors. We are the one-stop shop for all things mixed martial arts, combat sports. No fluff, real talk, real opinions with your boys. I'm Tristan Ducross. On my side, as always, my partner, Sean Ducross. Sean, we have Tough 25 finale. Then we're going to also preview some King of the Cage. What? Yes, King of the Cage.
Roberto Villa, you better get your boys over at King of the Cage ready for this one.
Right, get them right. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Sean and Tristan Across the Sports Warriors. Check us out on Facebook Live and YouTube on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or you can visit our website at www.drewcrossbrothers.com.
All right, everybody, we are back. We are the Sports Warriors. I'm Tristan Ducross. On my side, as always, is my partner in crime, Sean Ducross. You can follow us on Facebook. Just add Sean and Tristan Ducross. You can also go with the fact that you can like our fan page, The Ducross Bros. You can follow us on Twitter at The Ducross Bros. Our website, www.ducrossbrothers.com. Until next time, dude, Tough 25 finale.
Ben Riley, thank you. Welcome to the show. Hopefully you'll tune in more frequently now throughout the week. But Tough Enough for 25 finale. This one left you scratching your head because I couldn't get behind this season Ultimate Fighter. I'm not going to hide that. The only thing that interests me is the fact that you've got Michael Johnson versus Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje is the nerd. He's your closet nerd that you see in the hallway of your school and think, oh, I'm going to beat that kid up. Then he takes you outside and beats you up in the back of the woodshed. That's what Justin Gaethje looks like.
17-0 tells you that that's what he does.
And then you look across the bow and you look at Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson isn't somebody that resonates with a lot of people. But he can talk trash. But if you ask Justin Gaethje, yo, I'm not about talking trash.
Right.
But you've got two guys. If you have not seen Justin Gaethje fight in World Series of Fighting and the fights that he put on with Luis Palomino, with the fights with Foster, the list goes on. This guy is as real as it gets. Is that when he brings you into that cage, he goes balls to the walls, 90 minutes, leg kicks, punches, you name it. How are you going to withstand it? If you look at it, Justin Gaethje said, I'm bringing a whole new evolution of aggression. Yo, dude.
If I'm Michael Johnson, I am looking across that cage and I am terrified of what kind of Justin Gaethje I'm going to get. Because Michael Johnson, a couple fights back, he was the one that believed that I want that Conor McGregor money. I want that money fight. And yet, boy, you are 1-3 in your last 4 fights. You can't buy yourself out of a paper bag. You might want to go to the grocery store and pay 10 cents to actually get one. But Michael Johnson, the only thing that's going to be exciting about this is that we know he's coming forward.
Yeah, because he says that he's going to take Justin Gaethje's life.
Take his soul. Like
If there's anybody that can take anybody's soul,
it's the man known as Justin Gaethje, the dude that is 17-0, 10-0 in the WSOF, 5-0 in title defenses. This guy is no joke, folks.
14 via knockout of some shape or form, via knockout, leg kicks, whatever it may be.
15 out of 17 finishes. Are you kidding me?
But if you're looking at stylistic fights, Michael Johnson was the perfect fight for this.
Most definitely.
He's going to stand and trade, and people will be in for a treat. If you thought that Diego Sanchez versus Gilbert Melendez was the fight of a decade, or you thought that Forrest Griffin versus Stephen Bonner was the fight of the century, this will be fight of the millennium.
Yes, you could possibly get that right here.
This will be the best fight, or has the chance to be the best fight in the next 15 years.
Do you agree, Justin Gaethje getting Michael Johnson, a ranked fighter in that, but do you believe that one or two wins, starting with Michael Johnson, he's lightweight title contender ready?
See, what I don't get is that if Justin Gaethje walks into Bellator, he automatically gets a title shot.
Yes.
He walks into the UFC and it's like, whoa, wait a second.
Earn your way to the top.
If Justin Gaethje has to work his way up to a lightweight title shot, I feel bad for everybody that stands in his wake because they have no idea who he is.
Oh, no question.
Straight up. No idea who this kid is.
Folks, go to YouTube. Just YouTube Justin Gaethje's fights. Like, if you are UFC homers and you don't watch any MMA outside of UFC, and you're like, who is this Justin Gaethje kid? Do yourself justice and please research him. Because this dude, from the moment he stepped onto the scene, he makes no bones about it.
He's been the realest, baddest dude on the planet.
In the lightweight division, ain't nobody can touch him. Nobody.
And that's saying a lot. And we're the kings of bold predictions. This isn't a bold prediction, people. This is as real as it gets.
Scary dude.
Scary dude.
You want to talk about...
And it's on free TV.
Five tools in a fighter. Not in baseball, but in MMA. This guy has it. The persona, the kickboxing skills, the boxing skills, the MMA skills, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills.
This is the smaller man's version of Roy McDonald that Roy McDonald is attempting to become. Justin Gaethje's already been doing it. Roy McDonald is channeling the inner Justin Gaethje and wanting to put the best fights forward. Justin Gaethje is that guy. But the one thing that you're left puzzled about what the UFC continues to do is how is it that Juliana Pena and Tisha Torres are not main eventing on this card? How are these two at the bottom of the food chain? When you look at it, that Julia Pena should be rivaling for a title contention shot.
But when you're looking at it, Torres is stepping in on short notice for Amanda Ribas, who is suspended for steroids.
Allegedly.
Really? Torres, I give her props because here's a little pint-sized miniature, Oompa Loompa,
full of energy.
She has the reach against Juliana.
And likes to use that reach. We're keeping on the outside where Juliana Pena likes to go ahead and get on the inside and then go after it that way. And when you look at it, and if you try to get on the inside, it's going to be difficult because of the size difference with Pena and Torres.
Nathan used our saying in the chat room.
Oh, gatekeeper?
Yeah.
It's a fantastic line.
Right. Everybody's using it. Everybody and a mama.
Josh Allen, a new guy in the chat room, says that Johnson might be too much for Justin.
Really?
He could very well be, just because of the fact that he's got the reach.
Dude, I see Michael Johnson like Palomino. And Palomino got destroyed.
But Palomino gave Justin Gaethje the biggest fits ever because of his stylistic fighting style was the same. So Josh could be onto something.
The way that
He could, but that's what I'm saying. This fight could be the fight of the decade. We either see Justin Gaethje lose the O, or we see one of the biggest fights on the planet.
Okay. Josh says Justin hasn't faced the top.
He hasn't, and that's the thing that you give the edge to Michael Johnson because
he's
of
been there.
Because like Michael Johnson said is that he hasn't been underneath the big lights. He's under the big lights now on the biggest stage.
I mean, he could.
How does he handle the everybody all eyes on him?
Look, there's two scenarios that I see with Justin Gaethje, and I'm going to go back to go back here for a minute. Is that two things about Justin Gaethje? Okay, one is he came from WSOF, correct?
Yep.
Enough said. He joins the UFC like David Branch. David Branch was boring and lackluster
In his first fight.
Against better talent. Okay? I get that. Justin Gaethje comes over. Now he fights top talent. Do we get the evolution of Justin Gaethje? Or are we going to see firsthand that, hey, we might get a Jeff Horn versus Manny Pacquiao, and we might get a decision and a boring fight, and all eyes on Michael Johnson.
If Michael Johnson beats Justin Gaethje, all eyes will be on Michael Johnson, and as the show is titled New Beginnings, a new beginning will then develop with Michael Johnson about what is next for Michael Johnson, for a guy that has been that gatekeeper, that middle-of-the-road guy that will put on some solid fights and then lose some solid fights. All eyes will be on him. Either way you look at it, all eyes will be on this fight.
Yes.
Period. Win, lose, or draw, it's going to be one of those things that...
See, that's what I said. David Branch was boring in his first UFC run.
You're going to want to watch this. If you're not home, tape it. You don't want to miss this if you've never seen Justin Gaethje fight. Win, lose, or draw, you will not be disappointed because that's one thing he doesn't do. But honorable mention. Why are these two even around? CB Dollaway versus Ed Herman. Ed Herman returns after being a year away. CB Dollaway was gone for 17 months. Returned to a 3-fight losing streak. Why are these two guys? Did you need that much of a fluff filler that you needed to throw these two guys on?
I guess you need to fill out a fight card, so you go dumpster diving and you pull out CB Dollaway as well as Ed Herman.
Well, I guess when you got to fill out a fight card, you go across the bow and you shoot across the king of the cage, the chosen few. Not the one that's in our area, not the one that's in wherever else. This is King of the Cage in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Is it? But first, is it just me, or does King of the Cage kind of reminds me of a what are those places called? That kind of just pops up like those restaurants, like you can own one, I can own one.
Oh, what is it?
Anybody in the chat room know what I'm referring to? What's that word? I'm so drawing a blank right now, but I know everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Franchise.
There you go. Because I swear, there's like a King of the Cage that like pops up in every neck of the woods. What is the real King of the Cage? But chosen few, double co-main event. We're going to talk about that one first because it's headlined by two women fights. And I like this because, there you go, franchise. It's spelled correctly. There you go, franchise. Thank you. Thank you, people.
But I just beat them to you.
Right? Thank you, Sean.
They were a little slow in the chat room, just a little bit.
Right. They're like the Popeyes. King of the Cage is like Popeyes, like Louisiana Popeyes. They are the franchise that pops up that nobody really like.
But the interesting thing, though, about King of the Cage is that while they may come across as the franchise and whatever else, they do sporadically
Put on good cards.
Good cards.
Right. Chosen Few has that.
There's been some that in our neck of the woods, King of the Cage has been brutal. And I have talked to one of our buddies about the King of the Cage because he's a fan of the King of the Cage. And I'll kind of keep his name out of there. He knows who he is. He's a buddy of ours. But he likes King of the Cage. We've always been indifferent about King of the Cage.
Yes, we have.
Because of what we've seen and what we've heard in our own neck of the woods. But one thing is, though, is that at least they don't always throw out fluff fights. They don't always throw out the fights that make you leave scratching your head. Although they do have one that I told you was basically, to me, a showcase fight.
You that say is their showcase fight, I see it as a hand-picked fight.
But that's because I want to be... I don't want to dig a hole, ruff a little bit of feathers.
Yes. But see, our tagline is simply known, Sean.
No fluff, real opinions, real things.
And the sports warriors cross the line. Okay? Let's talk about this. Brenda Boom Boom Gonzalez versus Nicole Fidget Upshaw. First, I want to talk about the nickname of Fidget Upshaw, okay? Because I was talking to one of our boys about it.
Did she get copyright infringement for Fidget?
That's what I'm saying. Because I asked, well, is she going to come out with a fidget spinner? I got the response was, laughing my you-know-what off. Are you kidding me? Like, your name is Fidget.
And now we got the fidget spinners. Isn't that against the rule? Well, if you don't want to get sued, shouldn't you come out with a fidget spinner?
Right.
Just saying.
My bad. I'm using the nickname Fidget. There's a fidget spinner out there now. So, but legally, I have to come out with a fidget spinner.
I'm sponsored by the fidget spinner.
Right.
That'd be amazing.
She comes out twirling the fidget spinner all the way to the ring and then gets knocked out by Boom Boom.
In like 2 seconds?
Right? And instead of you get the, what was it called? MVP? With the, what was it?
Oh, the Pokeball?
Yes. Instead, you just throw this fidget spinner.
Here's your
fidget. Here you go. Nicole Upshaw, dude, this, I'm still trying to figure out, like, Gonzalez is the number one bantamweight in New Mexico. But let's run off her victories over fighters. 0-1, 2-1, 7-5, 10-7, 5-5.
So she has fought some talent
and
in there.
She's fighting a girl that is making her debut. The only claim to fame for Brenda is that she lost to Ren Nakai, who was 13-0 via submission. That was the last time she fought anybody that was relatively any good outside of Colleen Schneider.
So I guess while they're talking about us, about the fact that we're talking about the fidget spinner, Josh in the chat room says, well, then what about Roy McDonald's?
But his name is
McDonald? I get it. I can kind of see where it goes.
I can.
Because, I mean, you can use the McDonald logo.
True.
And then it would kind of be interesting.
Dude, wouldn't that be cool, though, to come out on the Jumbotron and you have, like a Canadian Psycho McDonald's logo on the back of his Jumbotron when he comes out?
Yeah.
Money!
I mean, you go to Canada, you can probably go to McDonald's and then get a Roy McDonald burger. I mean, you can get burgers by the Montreal Canadiens up there.
You went for that and completely missed that. This is not Wahlburgers, okay?
Did I?
You don't get a Donnie Wahlburger. That's not happening. But these two, it should bode well for them for a good, entertaining fight. Because Nicole Upshaw is a very tough girl. She has great stand-up. So I'm hoping that for her, that this is
Ben Riley. And yeah, see, went from fighting Colleen Schneider, who is a top girl that's now over in, Invicta. And now you've got her debuting against this guy. That's what I'm saying. that this is a showcase fight, I think, to try to get her to the next
level.
May not be the best approach, but it's one of the interesting approaches. But you look across, too. Here's another interesting story coming out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Again, sorry, I apologize if I get the name wrong.
I thought it was Johnny Hendricks ribs, not burgers.
Why?
I thought he likes to eat ribs.
In Texas? I think he likes to eat ribs. But you have Rick Esquivel. Boy, I butchered that one, my bad. Versus Joey Trevino, who's making his pro debut. Rick is 1-0. Trevino has 20 amateur bouts to Rick's 4. Rick trains at Jack's Wink MMA in Albuquerque, New Mexico. If Joey Trevino wants to win this fight, his ability has to be to get Rick to the mat and not to stand there and fight. But that's one of the sneaky fights that comes up that, I kind of like that. I kind of like that approach. 1-0 versus a pro debut.
Yep.
This fight makes sense.
But just like the fight that makes sense
is the main event.
Well, not just that. Is that Chris Brown, not Chris Breezy Brown, not the rapper that beat up Rihanna. No, not talking about her.
Wow, that's so harsh.
We're talking about Chris Brown, not the dude that locked himself in the house.
We're not talking about practice?
No, we're not talking about practice.
We're not talking about dancing?
Nope.
We're not talking about who's the best dancer?
Nope. We're not talking about who's the best lip syncer.
So there's going to be no dancing and no lip syncing?
No.
We're not going to see a lip sync battle?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Unless Chris Brown...
Worth a shot.
Right. But he's facing Andy Varela. And from everything that I have heard, Chris Brown is the second coming to Tony Ferguson. Because he's stepping out of Jackson Wink's MMA camp with Diego Sanchez and all them boys there. And John Jones. And... he's the second coming to Tony Ferguson because Tony Ferguson started off as just a tough sparring partner. Same thing with Chris Brown. Tough dude. Everybody wants to train with him. He's a bad dude in sparring. Translates. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily translate well.
It doesn't always translate well to what's going on when you are a sparring partner versus not a sparring partner. You've seen it before. Where guys that do really well in camp transition really well or they transition really poorly. You see that a lot of the time with the guys from TriStar in Montreal. Not all the guys from TriStar come out successfully.
Chris Brown should, without a doubt, beat Andy Varela, even though Andy has 7 fights versus a guy that has only 1 fight on his pro card. This guy should be able to go in there and dominate. He listens to whatever Wink says and whatever the camp says.
As long as as long as he's a good student,
he makes the hill of tears cry. Oh, only people in Albuquerque is going to know what that means. Just say it.
Really?
Yep. Only the people in Albuquerque knows what I'm talking about. If Robert Villa is still listening to us, he knows.
So you look at that and you're talking about, it was said in the chat room that King of the Cage used to have some talent that rolls through and a lot of people came from them and you're like, I know exactly who they are. Well, then you should know who Juan Archuleta is versus Vince Murdoch.
See?
You're talking about 2 guys that people are going to know who they are.
And an honorable mention, can I just say it real quick? True Form Entertainment. Remember them. They're killing it out in Indiana. They got another card coming up. Juan Archuleta fought on True Form Entertainment No Fear in Indiana and destroyed his opponent.
See, and this guy is 15-1 that has 3 titles from lightweight, bantamweight, and flyweight, all in King of the Cage. You kidding me? This guy is 15-1 out of Cobra Kai. One thing that Joe Daddy Stevenson does really well is his ability
to teach and coach and train.
And find guys that listen to him very well. Then you go across and you look at Vince Murdoch, who's from Team Alpha Male. Won his last 2 fights. This people has the chance to be the fight of the night because these 2 guys, quite frankly, they're going to stand there and punch each other in the face.
That's going to be a fight of the night for KOTC. It's going down.
And then what leaves you pondering about fight of the night, honorable mention as we get ready to head out, Fight Night Global 70. Want to know, look who made the airwaves?
Yes.
Rusmir Polaris is back in the fight game against Alexei Ivanov. Like, really, this guy's still fighting? At the age of 38, he's coming off back-to-back losses against Michael Matrilla at KSW 36, lost to UFC middleweight now Emil Meek at Venator FC3 in Italy. Ivanov is a Russian guy that's been around Russia for the longest time at 29 years old. Won 7 straight before losing at Fight Night Global 57. Polaris is known at finishing fights on the mat, but he faces a guy who's just equally tough on the mat and equally tough on the feet.
So you should go ahead and watch his fight.
That's the only fight on that card that is worthy of fighting. It's watching. Just because Polaris, you want to see if he's going to lose again.
But we are the Ducross brothers, the sports warriors. I'm Tristan Ducross. Along my side, as always, is my brother, Sean Ducross. We do this every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Facebook Live, on YouTube TV. You can go to our website at www.ducrossbrothers.com. Get all the latest news and rumblings with your boys. Also, friend us on Facebook, Sean and Tristan Ducross. Just search us. Like our fan page, the Ducross Brothers. You can also find us on Twitter at Ducross Bros. Till next time, everybody, thank you.
And also, before we go, is Ben Riley. Polaris isn't going to walk away with a limb. What's going to happen is that Ivanov is going to submit Polaris with a rear naked choke.
Oh, yes! Bold prediction right here by Sean Ducross. Polaris gets tapped out. Till next time, we are out. Thank you to everybody in the chat room. Till next time.